tusimame pamoja kulinda uhuru na umoja wetu. Enyi Bwana na binti wa Afrika, mwili wa jua, mwili wa anga, tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima. Tuungane sote tuimbe pamoja, kuenzi shikamano hatima yetu. Tujitoe wenyewe kupambana pamoja, uhuru na umoja vitawale. Enyi Bwana na binti wa Afrika, mwili wa jua, mwili wa anga, tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima. Tuungane sote na tujibidishe kutoa kilicho bora kwa Afrika, chimbuko la wanadamu, chemchemi ya utamaduni, tumaini letu wakati wa mafarakano. Enyi Bwana na binti wa Afrika, mwili wa jua, mwili wa anga, tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima.
Let us make Africa the tree of life. This is Women's TV Africa. Women's TV Africa is a registered charity media organization registered to do media work throughout the world. My name is Katon Mkasa. In the studio is James Bongole to do the production of this show. I want to encourage you to please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Facebook, TikTok, our website, and be part of a team interested in taking the world forward, interested in empowering humanity, learning from each other, empowering you as you empower us. Our email is right there. Our WhatsApp number is on your screen, and our website is right on your screen. Today, it's country profiles. Country profiles, and we talk about Liberia. The love for freedom brought us here. Liberia. The love for freedom brought us here. Think about slaves in the US. Think about the people who have been tortured because of their skin color. Black people taken into slavery, enslaved for almost 500 years. And then they say, enough is enough. You want to go back home. And then they go back home. But again, they are still ruled by the Caucasians. But they call themselves independent. And they say, the love for freedom brought us here. Today, we talk about Liberia, a country in West Africa, a country that is known as the first republic in Africa. Liberia is a country in West Africa, bordering Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Cote d'Ivoire on the Atlantic coast. The capital city of this country is Monrovia. And how do we get Liberia as a country, and how do we get Monrovia as the capital city of this country? Liberia was founded in 1822 as an outpost for returning freed slaves from the Americas. It grew into a colony and eventually became a Commonwealth country, achieved its independence in 1847 with the help of American Colonization Society. Imagine that the American Colonization Society was a private entity, And don't you wonder why Liberia is a country that has a flag just like the US flag? Do you wonder why? Because Liberia is a project, and was a project, and continues to be a project of the American government. Liberia, as you can see on your screen, is a country with varying languages. Remember that Liberians are, Caucasians are, Asians are indigenous Africans, are mulattoes or mixed people between Caucasians, Indians, and black people. So Liberia is an interesting country because it has a mixture of people, therefore a mixture of language. When you look at your screen, you are going to see languages spoken in Liberia, and of course the tribes in Liberia, the Bansi, Bakarena, Grebo, Bassa, and Adan, and all these others, the regions, the areas, the Sapo, the Mende, the Manya, the Mano, the Roma, all these are people in Liberia and their languages. The Liberian English, but also they have their own Kipele Liberia, which is an equivalent of maybe Pidgin English, if you may like. The Vai, the Agora, the Krau, and all these are tribes and, of course, languages that are spoken in Liberia, and the national language, of course, remains English, and English is widely spoken in Liberia, but also they have what they call the Liberian English. When you listen to it, yes, you will appreciate that this is Liberia. Just like when you are in Nigeria, you hear them speak their pidgin English. Also in Liberia, they have their own version of English. The people of Liberia, their tribes can be seen right in that next screenshot right there. Liberia is a country with about 5 million and 500,000 people. It's a country with a very small population. Remember, Liberia shares border with Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Ivory Coast. The capital city of Liberia is Monrovia, and of course, the largest city in Liberia. Liberia was at one time known as Little America. Little America, and they used to say that the land for freedom brought us here as their motto. This is the map of Liberia. You can see who borders Liberia. Look at Atlantic Ocean right there, and look at Monrovia. Look at where Monrovia is located. Then look at Monrovia and the Atlantic Ocean, and look at the proximity to the rest of the world. It was particularly picked to get Monrovia there. How did you get the name Monrovia? From, of course, an American. Now, Guinea, right there, Sierra Leone, Cote d'Ivoire, call it Ivory Coast, is all part of the boundaries of Liberia. Now, in terms of geographical location, in terms of minerals, we shall know that Liberia doesn't have that much, but of course it has basic minerals, as you can see, the rocks right there, some of the priceless rocks there in Liberia. Now, I should also give you more history as we look at the screen. George Washington's nephew, called Butterfield Washington, was the first group president when they were setting off to come to Liberia. They had all these people supporting them to relocate. Now, among the supporters were Andrew Jackson and James Monroe. James Monroe, who would serve as the president of the United States from 1817 to 1825. These are the guys who supported the formation of Liberia. Monroe would reportedly call the colony Little America. It was Monroe that called the colony Little America, another version of America. And remember, the capital was called Monrovia. This is where we get this name. Now, the first batch of people to go to Liberia landed there in 1822 in this province, and they started around the mouth of Masarudo River. That's where they first settled. They were followed shortly by Jehudi Atham, a white American who became the real founder of Liberia. Liberia, the colony, later joined the Commonwealth of Liberia, became the Commonwealth of Liberia, and it was a private colony, as I've told you, under the American Colonization Society. So the question is, was Liberia colonized or not? The answer is, you have had it yourself in my state. If a country was called a little colony of the America, why would we say it was never colonized? So the question is, was Liberia colonized? Now, having you to think about it, I'm going to be showing you the best beaches in Liberia. Remember, Liberia has the Atlantic Ocean right there. It has water bodies right there. Therefore, it makes it a very good place to go and visit. I'm telling you, Liberia is one of the beautiful countries with a beautiful coastline, with a beautiful ocean and beaches right there in Liberia, as you can see on your screen. Now, the sovereignty of Liberia is often described as never colonized. It was created in 1847, and Liberia was founded by Americans in 1821 and remained under their control for just over 17 years before partial independence was achieved, and the Declaration of Commonwealth on April 4th April 1839. The first president of Liberia was a man called Joseph Jenkins Roberts, born on March 15th, 1809 at Petersburg, and of course died on February 24th, 1876. That was the first president of Liberia, and there was of course American-born president who became the president of Liberia. The question is, was Liberia independent? The answer is, you should be able to answer that. Now, Liberia was originally occupied by the first inhabitants. It was never empty. There were people there. The first inhabitants of Liberia were the ancestors of the Gola and the Kiti peoples from North Central Africa, who arrived as early as the 12th century. They were joined by the Kruan people, Kuru, Kua, Bassa, Clan, and Dei ethnic groups, moving in from the north and the east. Now, Liberia, was it free? Was it empty? The answer is no. There were people there. Major mineral resources of Liberia include rubber, timber, iron ore, diamonds, gold, lead, water, palm oil, and wildlife. If you ask me, what are the major mineral resources of Liberia? I'll tell you: rubber, timber, iron ore, diamonds, gold, lead, water, palm oil, and wildlife. Wildlife is a big thing in Liberia right there. The climate is also very good in this country of Liberia. Of course, as I've been telling you, many African countries are struggling with poverty. In Liberia, 50% of the people live below the poverty line. Now, just look at the population of Liberia: 5.3 million people right there, according to the stats of 2022. But as I speak today, there are more than 5.5 million people in Liberia. Population growth rate is 2.082 annually, which is a bit lower. And of course, age dependency is high at 78%. And the urban population is also high at 53%. People live more in urban areas. Infant mortality is threatening at 56 per 1,000 live births. That is quite high of an infant mortality rate. That is too bad. And life expectancy in Liberia is only 60 years. Almost 60 years. Now, in terms of age distribution of Liberia, we see that many people basically are between 0 to 14 years. That is quite unfortunate. 40% below 14 years. And 15 to 64 years are only 56%. This is not so good. Of course, young population is quite high, but also the old ones are only 3%. People above 64 years of age. Now, Liberia has electricity. Let us see the production. Production is 0.92 billion kilowatts right there, and the consumption is 0.87, leaving them with nothing to export, but also nothing to import, which is also good. They also have some renewable electricity prospects right there, as you can see on that screen. Now, in terms of technology, Liberia has 29 airports. Some of them are, of course, private airports. Cellular telephones, 3 million people have at least cellular telephones. Highways, over 10,000 square kilometers covered by highways. Internet users are quite a few, surprisingly, at only 714,000 people right there. And of course, railways cover 429 kilometers. Telephones, only 8,000. Telephones, as we know, then only cover 8,000 right there. Now, in terms of geography, this West African country bordering North Atlantic Ocean between Cote d'Ivoire and Sierra Leone, that's why it is located. Total land area is 11,000 square kilometers roughly. Land area is only 96,000 square kilometers for the land area. Water covers 15,000 square kilometers, and the coastline is right there with 579 kilometers. The climate is tropical, very hot, humid, dry, and of course winter with hot days, and of course some cool and very cold nights. Liberia is a good country, I should tell you. And of course, the terrain is mostly flat to rolling coastal plains, raising to rolling plateau, and low mountains in the northeast. Of course, the lowest point is the Atlantic Ocean, right there at Zulu and of course the highest point is Mountain Uteve. That's the highest point. And of course, where do we get this data? From the World Bank. Now, Liberia is known for their presidents. I love Liberia for a very cantankerous history. Look from the bottom. You will see these guys who came from the US and became presidents of Liberia. And someone tells me, yes, Liberia was independent. The question is, how independent was Liberia? The question I ask you always is, how independent was Liberia? If you tell me that yes, Liberia was independent, since when was it independent? Is the question I ask you. Now we look at these presidents, such as William Tubman, Edwin Buckland, Daniel Edward Howard. We look at William Tolbert, Samuel Doe. You remember Samuel Doe, the man who led so many violent battles, violent crimes in Liberia. Samuel Doe was a dictator and a killer. And then we see Charles Taylor, another criminal who came to power in Liberia. Charles Taylor was a criminal. 1997 to 2003, Charles Taylor killed thousands of people, not only in Liberia, but in Sierra Leone. He cut their hands off, he cut their noses off, he cut their legs off. Charles Taylor, the criminal, as we speak, is serving 50 years in jail. The first president, if you may ask me, to be indicted from, of course, Africa, and among others, of course, one of the first presidents, one of those presidents that have been indicted by the criminal court that tackles war crimes in the world, is serving, that murderer there, Charles Taylor, is serving 50 years of imprisonment for killing people in Africa. Of course, we see the first woman there, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, the first woman in Africa to become a president, was from Liberia. Then we see George Weah, a man who came as a footballer, so much loved, and did almost nothing to save Liberia. They chased him recently. He lost a vote. Only one time in office, George Weah, much pampered, did almost zero, to the extent that actually his team was being represented by people from the US. You can imagine that how shameful it was for a man like George Weah right there. Now we see the new president right there, Joseph Boakai, who is the president of Liberia as I speak today. Liberia continues to be a staggering economy with poverty, with lots of hope. You look at the first of our leaders of Liberia, I told you, overall, Liberia has been ruled by 26 presidents as we speak today. 26 presidents have ruled Liberia. Of course, I can say they have also misgoverned Liberia. It's a country in debt. It's a country highly indebted. Today, we have Joseph Boakai, the president of Liberia, at 78 years of age. Joseph Boakai has been a leader in Liberia, has been serving in different capacities. Today, he bounces back as a president. Joseph Boakai, having beaten George Weah hands down. George Weah was recently beaten out of office. He lost an election. George Weah did almost nothing for Liberia. They were hyping him. Oh, we have got a footballer. We have got an artist. He knows our problems. He knew nothing. He fixed nothing. He was chased just recently out of Liberia. So this is the challenge of Africans. Now look at Taylor, the president of Liberia, the 22nd president of Liberia, who was in office from 2nd August 1997 to 11 August 2003. Look at this man who went ahead and killed not only Liberians, but also people in Sierra Leone. Killed thousands, was concerning wars, was a warmonger, was a bloodthirst vampire of a president in Africa. As we speak today, this man, Taylor, is in prison for war crimes, for crimes against humanity, including acts of terrorism, murder, atrocities against personal dignity, raping women, slavery, mutilation, use of children under the age of 15 in armed forces or groups, or using them to actively participate in hostilities, looting, and other inhuman acts. This man there, you see, Charles Taylor, led to the death of 1 million plus people in West Africa. That man there, you see. This is the problem of Africa, bad leadership. You get them, they come, they destroy things. Today, Charles Taylor serves 50 years in prison for crimes against humanity. And of course, we look at Lady Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. the first female president in Africa. I love this woman, an economist, well educated, well articulate. She tried her best to put Liberia back on the map. She tried her best as the woman president, the first one of her kind in Africa, with a good history, good economist, well educated, well articulate, and she left power. She had made her mark. Then comes in the other confused guys, and they mess everything up for Liberia. That has been Liberia, a very promising country, good people, happy people, the best beaches we can talk about in Africa, the best wildlife you can talk about in Africa, the best coastline you talk about in Africa, happy people, intermarried people. You find Caucasians, Arabs, you find Asians, indigenous Africans, mulattoes. Liberia is a very beautiful country. But the problem has been leadership for Liberia. This is Africa. This is country profile. And of course, I want to encourage you to go on subscribing to watch this and more of our shows. See you in the next one.